infrastructure for the next decade. And we're doing really what we've been promising to do, what PIDA's promise is to the African continent, and that is positioning Africa to deliver on Agenda 2063 and economic integration through multi-sectoral approaches to infrastructure development. Many of you work in this particular sector, so I don't even need to run down the statistics on where we are as a continent, where the gaps sit, but we thought it was very important that we have a high-level conversation about what the vision is, where we are at this point, and what we plan to do. So in this session, looking at perspectives on smart and innovative multi-sectoral approaches. I think some of that has been spoken about in the earlier sessions today, and you'll also, if we've got enough time, we are literally chasing that time this afternoon. Hopefully I'll be able to include you in the conversation, but if I don't, I apologize in advance. We are literally running out of time. So I'm going to ask you to take your seats as I introduce our panelists, and I'm going to ask them to please join me on stage at this point. Her Excellency Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, who is Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy at the AU Commission. His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, who is CEO of AUDA NEPAD. I'd also like to welcome to the stage Dr. Mohamed Musa Omran, who is the First Under-Secretary of State for Research, Planning and Authorities Follow-up with the Government of Egypt. If I could ask Mr. Mamadi Soare, who is the Manager Operations Office with the AFDB, and of course, Mrs. Carla Montesi, who is the Director for Planet and Prosperity in the Directorate General for International Cooperation and Development with the European Commission. Let's give them a warm welcome, please.
Where would you like?
Anywhere. Can we take any seats?
Okay. Which one?
Anywhere. Thank you very much for making the time for us today. I think part of the reason we're having this particular session is to really set a big part of the agenda for what's going to be discussed over the rest of the week. You've already started that process in the earlier sessions, but now we'd like to integrate all of those conversations and share them with our delegates today. So I'm going to start with both of you, Your Excellencies, and maybe just give us a broad scope, your thinking around the role that infrastructure plays in delivering on that promise. We keep hearing about the promise of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, but I imagine, Your Excellency, that infrastructure will play a big role. How would you position infrastructure within that promise of the Free Trade Agreement? I'll start with you, yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Actually, it's very difficult for me to know where to start or where to end in that sense. Why? I mean, I think you heard me this morning. I don't know of any sector or any achievable target of the Agenda 2063 that does not one way or the other has for backbone, facilitator, or catalyst the infrastructure. Of course, it depends what type of infrastructure and how to position ourselves also to make sure that this infrastructure is happening in a timely manner to help facilitate these other achievable. And I take an example. You just mentioned, for instance, and I think it was mentioned also this morning, the African Free Trade Area. And the African Free Trade Area, great deliverable of the Agenda 2063. My next question, or the next point that I always mention now, how are we going to transport these goods and people? How are we going to transact with each other without digital means? how are we going to do that or identify people if you don't have a digital ID, for instance? And what kind of goods are we going to transact unless we are talking about value addition on the continent through transformation and industrialization, which necessitates energy. So whatever you want, I mean, whatever aspects you want to talk about when it comes to Agenda 2063 and its deliverables, they all have for backbone or facilitator or catalyst the infrastructure. But also infrastructure as and of itself. Remember, we are using infrastructure in ways to promote skills, to employ people, and that's why we put a lot of emphasis on smart infrastructure, new approaches and innovation when it comes to implementation. We want to make sure that the local content is important in our infrastructure projects, that our young people learn as they go, or we learn as we go also on the job, implementing the infrastructure projects. So in and of themselves are a great employer, catalyst to other areas and sectors in the economy in terms of local content, but also they are themselves, the infrastructure themselves, they are also facilitator, catalyst, and backbone of every sector. What I often say, and I'm sure if you search the internet, you'll hear me say that often, infrastructure is everything you don't see until it fails. You don't see infrastructure, you don't seem to see infrastructure, but if there's an outage right now, you will notice right away that there is no light. But as long as there's light, you don't seem to think that there's infrastructure, but it's all around us in everything, in every aspect of life until it fails. On the continent, they are not failing. In some parts, they are absent. And that's the real problem. We are doing great in terms of important projects on the continent, but we also cognizant of the fact that we need to do more and fast because our population and our aspirations cannot wait.
Absolutely, and in fact, Commissioner, you just reminded me of the first time we had rolling blackouts in South Africa. We'd not been used to it, and then suddenly it happened, and we went, oh, that's why we need to maintain and expand infrastructure. So it's absolutely a very important point. I think, Dr. Mayaki, let's expand on something that was said just before we went off to lunch. We were given a very comprehensive overview of, you know, how PIDA and the next level and the new mandate is going to be rolled out and those particular projects. But I want to get a sense from you how the new mandate that you have as the as AUDA NEPAD is actually going to affect the way that you implement infrastructure projects going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe two issues very quickly. The first one is that the reform of the African Union was meant to target a higher efficiency. And higher efficiency is linked to more efficient division of labor. The Secretariat of the Union is the African Union Commission. That's where come all the strategic frameworks that we need to implement. Agenda 2063, PIDA, CADEP in agriculture, STISA in science and technology. So we are given these frameworks which are designed by the African Union Commission, adopted by the heads of states, and we, as the development agency, in our new mandate, expanded, have the responsibility to implement them. So implement them means going at national level in order to support member state into that implementation of CADEP, PIDA, etc. And then making sure that the regional level is supported to implement regional projects. And PIDA, as the Commissioner was rightly, evidently saying, and focusing, is about regional projects. So we know generally, all our countries know how to manage, design national projects in infrastructure. Roughly well. We have spent a lot of money, we have taken a lot of loans in order to do national projects. But regional projects is a new venture, and that's where PIDA, the world over, is an originality, because it was built on the basis of the master plans of regional economic communities and targeting priorities. Now, going towards PIDA PAP 2, with the criteria that were mentioned this morning, allows us to strengthen our capacity to implement, because we'll have better projects, less projects, better projects, which have a development impact and with accountability processes. So as a development agency, we need to report on how well we are doing in making sure that PIDA is implemented at national and regional level. And its accountability is very important. So that division of labor leads to an accountability mechanism, and we need to demonstrate that we, evidently, with our partners and with the necessary synergies, are moving towards a full implementation, impactful.
Yeah, and given that they are regional projects, I imagine that you need very strong political will and that you need very strong political support.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you have that? And I'll get an answer from both of you.
I think, yeah, go on.
Pardon?
And harmonization.
And
harmonization, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, political will, I think the political determination is there. But we as technicians, we need to do our homework. So whenever we face difficulties, the African Union is structured in such a way that we can bring quickly these difficulties at the political level. But we shouldn't bring difficulties without potential solutions. You see, there is no use in coming to an Assembly of Heads of State and saying, these are the obstacles we have, and we stop there.
Yeah.
We should say that for, like Commissioner was saying, harmonization of regulatory frameworks, we propose scheme A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
And then that facilitates the decision, you see. So our homework is to strengthen the, to strengthen the political determination. We need to bring obstacles, flag them, analyze them, but we need to bring solutions and push the decisions toward the solutions. And when we are adopted, we need to go back and implement.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Fantastic. Dr. Omran, let me bring you into this conversation. Maybe we are now here in Cairo, in Egypt. I'd like you to maybe share with us your infrastructure journey, your experiences as Egypt, as you have been going through the infrastructure development challenges. Starting from the pyramids.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يعني بداية يعني برحب بكم طبعا جميعا في القاهرة، وأنا قبل ما أتكلم بس على تجربة مصر يعني ليا ملاحظتين في الخطط بتاعة النبات أو خطط الأفريكان يونيون. يعني الجزء المهم جدا اللي احنا محتاجين نركز عليه الكاباسيتي بيلدينج. لابد في أي مشروع إزاي إن أنا هرفع كفاءة الناس اللي موجودين في أفريقيا إن هم يقدروا يقوموا بتشغيل وصيانة وإنشاء هذه المشروعات. دي نقطة أساسية. النقطة الثانية، أحد المعايير المهمة اللي احنا المفروض إن احنا نحطها في المشاريع إن يبقى في تصنيع داخل أفريقيا. يعني لو المشروع في بريوريتي إن أنا عايز أخده إن هو يكون في تصنيع في أفريقيا، لأن أنا طول ما أنا معتمد على خارجي الخارج هتبقى في مشكلة في التنمية في أفريقيا. أحد محاور التنمية التصنيع اللي هو هيقدر يخلق فرص عمل، وممكن نحط أحد المعايير إن يبقى في تصنيع في أفريقيا، يبقى في شراكات. لو بردك شركات أفريقية تبقى هي ليها الأولوية عن الشركات الأجنبية اللي خارج أفريقيا. ده مهم جدا إن هو نضعه في الاعتبار. طبعا انا يعني باكد على كلام الزميله ان المفروض يبقى في اراده سياسيه علشان انت تقدر تعمل تغيير وتقدر تعمل مشروعات بالسرعه اللي حضراتكم شفتوها. مش عايز اعيدها في الفيلم اللي احنا شفناه الصبح. كان في اراده سياسيه ان احنا نقدر نتغلب على المشاكل اللي كانت موجوده في مصر واللي كانت موجوده في اوج المشاكل بتاعتها في سنه 2014. فكان في دعم كامل من السيد الرئيس لكافه القطاعات، اللي هو النهج اللي كانوا ماشيين فيه ان احنا مش هنشتغل على قطاع واحد، لان لا التنميه مش هتبقى موجوده لو انت ركزت على قطاع واحد. ولكن كان من الاهميه بمكان ان احنا نبدا بقطاع مهم جدا اللي هو يعني عدم وجوده او عدم وجود الكهرباء او الطاقه مش هيبقى فيه تنميه. الكهرباء عامل رئيسي في التنميه. بعد كده الطرق، لابد ان يبقى الطرق بردك تبقى موجوده، لان حضرتك مش هتقدر تنمي او تعمل مصانع لما يكون في طرق اولا توصل للمصانع وتاخد المنتجات من المصانع هتوديها لاماكن الاستهلاك. فده مهم جدا ان احنا لما نخطط زي ما انا شايف في الخطط اللي موجوده المالتي سيكتور ابروتش ده حاجه كويسه جدا، ليس فقط على المستوى الافريقي ولكن على مستوى الدوله الواحده المفروض ان هي تبتدي تشتغل بيه. طبعا كان في تضافر لجهود الدوله بالكامل، يعني كافه الوزارات. يعني يمكن كانت ناخد مثال مثلا الجمارك اللي هي بتبقى مشكله في اي دوله، كانت الحاجه بتيجي من بره بالذات في الكهرباء، لان ده القطاع اللي بيخصني اللي انا ممكن اقدر اتكلم فيه اكتر من اي قطاع تاني، والزملاء موجودين لو عايزين يعملوا مداخلات بقيه القطاعات اللي موجوده في مصر. كانت المعده بتيجي من المانيا خصوصا مشروعات سيمنز، كانت بتخرج في نفس اليوم، مفيش تعطل. اي حاجه الدوله كانت بتدعمها جدا وكافه قطاعات الدوله اللي موجوده. ايضا كان في تركيز على تعزيز دور الشباب ودور المراه، الدكتوره اماني دائما بتتكلم على دور المراه ليس فقط في الاماكن اللي هي لا يعني في القيادات. احنا عندنا دلوقتي في القيادات بقى في رئيس شركه، الشركه المصريه لنقل الكهرباء، ودي اكبر شركه على مستوى مصر في الكهرباء، ترأسها سيده محترمه. التجربه بتاعت مصر في قطاع الكهرباء، احنا واجهنا مشكله في قطاع الكهرباء سنه 2014 وكان عندنا عجز من 15 الى 20%. لو كنا مشينا بالطرق التقليديه ان احنا عشان نبني محطه بنعمل تندر ونبتدي نحلل بتاخد لها اكتر من سنتين، ولكن كان الابروتش انت عايز تحل المشكله في خلال 8 شهور. الحمد لله حلينا المشكله. شفنا الشركات اللي موجوده العالميه، لان المبدا هنا ان انت لو مشيت بالبيزنس از يوجوال مش هتحقق نجاحات لو انت عندك ازمه. قدرنا في خلال 8 شهور ان احنا نضيف حوالي 3600 ميجا وات للشبكه، ودي حلت المشكله الى حد ما. بعديها على طول في 2015، احنا بنتكلم ده في 2014، في 2015 في نهايه 2015 ما كانش عندنا اي انقطاعات في مصر موجوده. تعاقدنا مع شركه سيمن بالامر المباشر، وكان في نيجوشيشن على مستوى عالي جدا. السيد الرئيس هو اللي عمل نيجوشيشن معاهم، ووصلنا لاسعار ما حدش قدر يكسرها لحد دلوقتي، ريكورد على مستوى العالم في سعر الميجا وات. وقدرنا نتعاقد معاهم على 14400 ميجا وات بالنسبه للطاقه التقليديه. عملنا 3 محطات بعد 2.5 من التعاقد بالظبط كانت موجوده على الشبكه، بمتابعه شخصيه من السيد الرئيس ومن السيد الوزير. مش هقول يوميا، على الاقل اسبوعيا كان في متابعه من السيد الوزير بيجيب الشركات كلها. السيد الرئيس كان متابع هذا الموضوع يوميا، ان هو بيتصل بالسيد الوزير يعرف تقدم الاعمال في المحطات بتاعه اللي معموله مع سيمنز. وكان فيها من الحاجات المهمه جدا اللي احنا نتكلم عليها ان كان في مشاركه من الشركات المحليه، وبالاسم كده السويدي واوراسكوم كانوا مشاركين وليس سب كونتراكتور، ما كانوش مقاولين من الباطن، ولكن كانوا مشاركين رئيسيين بحيث ان هم خدوا خبره وقدروا يتواجدوا في بعض الدول الاخرى بهذه الخبرات اللي هم خدوها من مصر. نقطه ثانيه معلش لو هاخد من وقتكم شويه، مشروعات الطاقه المتجدده. احنا بنعتمد ملي على القطاع الخاص في تنفيذ اغلب مشروعاتنا، و100% يعني المشروعات الجديده كلها بتاعه الطاقات المتجدده، وخاصه الشمس والرياح اللي مصر عندها زي معظم الدول الافريقيه بوتنشال عالي جدا فيها على القطاع الخاص. قدرنا من خلال تعريفه التغذيه الفيدن تاريف ان احنا نتعاقد مع 32 مستثمر لبناء 1465 ميجا من الخلايا الشمسيه. دي اتبنت الحمد لله وموجوده تقريبا كلها على الشبكه، ويمكن يحصل خلال الشهر القادم ان شاء الله افتتاح على اعلى مستوى، تفتتح المحطه، لان هي دي نموذج على مستوى العالم في إنشاء 1465 ميجا في مكان واحد على مستوى العالم وليس فقط على مستوى أفريقيا. قدرنا بعد كده عشان المشروع والمستثمرين شافوا إن في مصداقية في قطاع الكهرباء ومصداقية في مصر ومصداقية في الاقتصاد المصري. احنا قدرنا ان احنا نوصل لسعر 2.751، ده السعر اللي خدناه لكل كيلو وات ساعة من الطاقة الشمسية، وده سعر كان غير مسبوق على مستوى العالم. وفي الوقت الحالي ابتدى ينزل عن 2.7. في عروض جات لنا ب 2 سنت. 2 سنت دلوقتي احنا جاي لنا عرض بهذا الشكل من احد الشركات، وفي شركات تانية بعت اقل بردك من 2 سنت. فده مهم جدا ان يبقى في مصداقيه، في خطه واضحه، في باور بالشيز اجريمنت لازم يبقى موجود. التعويل على القطاع الخاص في افريقيا مهم جدا. التعويل على مشاركه القطاع الخاص في الدول الافريقيه معها بينها وبين بعض، لان احنا محتاجين نعول على الساوث كوبريشن او تعاون الجنوب جنوب. التركيز اولا على الدول الافريقيه مع بعضها، وبعدين جنوب خارج القاره الافريقيه. محتاجين فعلا ان احنا نبدا نحط اولوياتنا، زي ما بقول لحضراتكم ان الكهرباء حاجه رئيسيه جدا في الاول، لابد ان هي تبقى موجوده، بعديها الطرق، بعديها الاتصالات. فنحط اولوياتنا لما هنيجي نشتغل، هنشتغل ايه في افريقيا اولا، بحيث ان احنا نقدر ان احنا نوصل للهدف بتاعنا. انا مش عايز اطول على حضراتكم، ولكن دي ببساطه شديده التجربه المصريه عملنا فيها ايه. لابد ان انت تعمل تشريعات وقوانين، مهم جدا برضك النقطه ديت، لابد ان يبقى فيه تشريعات وقوانين. احنا مستعدين ان احنا ننقل خبراتنا دي لكافه الدول الافريقيه. احنا عندنا برامج تدريبيه بنعملها لبعض الدول الافريقيه، قدرنا لحد دلوقتي ندرب حوالي 9500 مهندس من الدول الافريقيه في كافه مجالات الكهرباء، انتاج ونقل وتوزيع، صيانه وتشغيل، حتى في البرامج الاداريه. عندنا برنامج لاعداد القاده بنقدر ندرب فيه الدول الافريقيه. الخبره كلها اللي احنا خدناها في القطاع الخاص موجوده عندنا. باور بالشيز اجريمنت ممكن نوزعه على حضراتكم، نجيبه لكم نموذج مراجع من الاي اف سي ومقبول من المستثمرين. نقدر ان انت بدل ما تخترع العجله من جديد، ده موجود، نقدر ان احنا نمده لكافه الدول الافريقيه، والمنظمات الافريقيه ممكن تاخده بحيث ان هي توزعه. جريد كود موجود عندنا، جريد كود لشبكات النقل والتوزيع، ده ايضا بدل ما الناس تشتغل فيه ونرجع نخترع العجله من جديد موجود. لاند ليز اجريمنت برضك، وهي اتفاقيات تاجير الارض او الانتفاع بالارض، موجود نماذج كلها يعني جهات التمويل الدوليه قبلتها وقدرت ان هي تدي للقطاع الخاص قروض بحيث ان هو يقدر يبني محطات. يعني مش عايز اطول على حضراتكم، ولكن دي في عجاله التجربه المصريه اللي هي بتعتمد مينلي على القطاع الخاص.
Thank you so much to Dr. Amran. Very comprehensive.
يعني كان عندنا في 2014 كان عندنا عجز في الكهرباء من 15 إلى 20%. دلوقتي عندنا زيادة في الكهرباء 25%. الشبكات كانت بنتكلم على 2000 كيلو متر طولي، دلوقتي بنتكلم على 6000 كيلو متر موجود الشبكة المصرية بامتدادها. لأن لما هتبني محطات توليد لابد أن يبقى في شبكات نقل وتوزيع موجودة بهذا الشكل. المحطات اللي موجودة عندنا في الوقت الحالي كنا بادئين في 2014 ب 26,000 ميجا، المتاح منهم 24، دلوقتي عندنا 55,000 ميجا متاحين على الشبكة.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amran, for adding that and also just clarifying that for us. Before I bring in Mr. Soare and Mrs. Montesi into this conversation, I just wanted to bring in Ambassador Khalid Amara, who's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I thought maybe you might want to add to a bit of what Dr. Amran was talking about, because he brought in something we don't think about a lot, about the multi-departmental approach. When you are building this type of infrastructure in nations and you're building the infrastructure with your regional partners, you have to, I imagine, bring in all the actors and ensure that there is proper cooperation in the room. Someone's coming to assist.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question and for the the opportunity. I think the main thing that I want to add is that when we were approaching the modernization that is taking place here in Egypt, it stemmed from clear demands of the population. And the political leadership have seen very clearly that to meet these demands, we need to provide this very wide array of national projects that would meet the demands of modernization of the very large Egyptian population, which is beyond 100 million today. So I think part of course, the sequencing that Dr. Omran have talked about, which is very crucial, that of course to be able to modernize without energy is an exercise in futility. You wouldn't reach any result. So we needed the energy, and then we are sequencing energy in parallel with, of course, the network of roads. I mean, raising the capacities of ports, making sure that also the other infrastructure is in a position to meet the demands of potential investors, either national, regional, or international investors that we are inviting to come and invest here, not only in Egypt, but also in the whole continent, you know, with the same enthusiasm that we are doing here in Egypt. So I would think, you know, that the political drive by which the leadership here in Egypt have taken this process to that level of engagement in response to the demands of the people is a unique situation that unfolded in Egypt because of the events that we have seen back in 2011. Now, I would think, you know, that another important part of all of this is the fact that we are not modernizing only in terms of doing just infrastructure. We are also building communities. We are building, as we speak, 14 different new cities in Egypt. Because we need to upgrade the urban centers of Egypt. Dr. Amani was talking about, we have been building since the big builders in the first dynasties of building pyramids. But yes, we are building, you know, mega projects in different parts of Egypt to accommodate also the population and to be able to provide the right incentives for people to flourish in new communities, to have the infrastructure, to enlarge the area where we are living also. This is maybe a unique situation in Egypt because we are, geographically speaking, living on 7 or 8% only of the land. Now, the vision of the Egyptian leadership is to expand the space where the Egyptians are living beyond the scope of the Nile Valley and the Delta. And so that is one of the things. I mean, most of these new cities, they are built adjacent to the Nile Valley and the Delta in the desert. And so they are expanding these communities, and I'm sure while you're here you'll be able to visit some of these projects and have a direct feeling of what they are and what they represent. Now, I think the last thing I want to shed light on is the fact that what we're doing here from my travels in the continent and my responsibility as coordinating the Egyptian presidency of the African Union, I have seen that what we are doing is not unique. It's something that is happening in many parts of the continent. The continent is driven by modernization, and there is a lot of things of what we are doing here that is that's happening elsewhere in the continent, in our brotherly countries in the continent, and that we are learning from this process. There is a process of peer learning at the level of leadership. You know, NIPAD, UDA NIPAD is driven by a vision of leaders that are meeting and that are exchanging experiences. We have also at the level of governance the same thing happening in the African peer review mechanism. at the governance level. We have the same thing happening in many parts of the STCs that are taking place, the specialized technical committees at the ministerial level in the African Union. So I think, you know, that the experience that we're seeing in the continent is an experience that deserves I think, to have more attention from outside of the continent, and that people need to look at the continent and see the new frontiers that the people in Africa are carving for themselves, and to engage with the outside world as they unfold their development plans and their visions for their countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And thanks again just for bringing it back to communities to remind us of why we're doing this. This is essentially about people. We think when we talk infrastructure, we tend to think of big things, but forgetting that those big things are actually supposed to make a massive difference to the people who have to experience that infrastructure. So we have to put people at the center of it. And in fact, I'm going to bring you in, Ms. Montesi, on this particular issue. I know that the European Union has been, through the infrastructure support mechanism, helping here, providing technical support to the AU. But talking about people, how do we ensure that in that provision of the technical support, that there is real capacity building, there's real skills transfer, so that we can continue doing the work ourselves? How would you suggest we do that?
Okay, now, thank you. Before arriving to your question, let me just create a link with all the other points that were mentioned now or this morning, just to say that the achievement of the African economic integration, or the achieving of the African continental free trade area, it's clearly one key priorities in our partnership between Africa and Europe. It's a joint priority that we have established together as the African Union Summit, but there was also an engagement from Europe recently with the proposal to deepen this partnership with an alliance, Africa-Europe for investment and jobs, where the infrastructure it's a key element of our work, where achieving the free continental trade area is also a key objective. Now, looking to the infrastructure and the role of the infrastructure to the achievement of the free trade area, let me just refer to what's happening in Europe. In Europe, more than 6 years ago, when our father decided to create the European Union, the first element, the first pillar was to create the European Union common transport policy, just to underline how infrastructure will be essential in order to create an internal market. And today we are a community, 28, maybe tomorrow 27 member states, but 500 million of people working and sharing the same area with really free movements of goods, labor, services, and free capital market. And this is what will be useful essential to have also the African continent. This is just to say, because you mentioned our support to the infrastructure support mechanism. And it's true, we are at the moment supporting through financing technical assistance the ODA NEPAD, the African Union Commission, to achieve this important objective, the free trade, continental free trade area, and the integration, the economic integration. The idea is to use this moment to share experience, to share knowledge, and to improve the skills that, as is requested, once again, it's not imposed, as is requested by the two organizations. And we have talked this morning about the integrated approach for the corridor. We have talked this morning about to have champions in the corridor. And this is exactly what we have done in Europe. Let me mention that our Trans-European Transport Network, TEN-T, where we have launched 9 integrated corridors, and we have defined some champions. And this experience with the success, or with the success story that we would like to share. The work that at the present is being done by the African Union Commission with the definition also of the PIDA PAP2, it's clearly essential. This master plan will be really very, very important to define what we will have to do in the future. It's important, of course, for the African leaders from the African regions, but it's also important for the international donors, because if we have to define together with the government of the countries, with the region, or at the continental level, what will be the priorities in our future partnership, it's important to have this master plan and of priorities, and it's crucial for the European Union, for example, in this moment where we are starting to prepare the future financial instrument for the next 7 years, and of course we would like to discuss on the basis of these very well established priorities for the continent. So this is, I will think, the challenges. Let me mention that maybe between all the challenges that we will have in common in Africa, also in Europe, will be to succeed in defining priorities, investment priorities project, where we have to take into account also not just the economic and social impact, but also the environment or climate change impact. So fixing priorities, but also fixing smart investment priorities will be the key challenges for our future.
And I'm so glad you brought up investment, because we can have all the plans and the priorities and the dreams that we want, but we've got to fund them somehow, right? And Mr. Soare, we spent quite a bit of time this morning talking about the funding challenges, the funding gap. I want to get a sense from you right now, what do you think we need to do to solve the bottlenecks that may be preventing the kind of funding that our infrastructure challenges on the continent are going to need?
Thank you, moderator. Hello? Thank you, moderator. I will respond to your question in English now, not in French, so that I will not be long. So 2 points. When mobilizing resources to close the funding gap, which is estimated now at around 100 billion of US dollars per year, the countries should not only focus on development of new infrastructure. They should also prioritize the maintenance. The maintenance of existing infrastructure. This has potential extending the lifetime of the existing infrastructure, and also the potential of reducing the gap of financing. In addition to that, countries and the MDBs like the African Development Bank, we need to promote the participation of private sector in the infrastructure development. We said that in the morning, through those innovative financial instruments like the SVP, or through the de-risking instrument that we have. As I said in the morning, we have this credit risk of partial risk guarantee and credit risk guarantee at the bank. But we are working also on the new instrument that we can develop. Yeah, thank you.
I did mention a little bit earlier that we are pressed for time, but I know that there must be at least one burning question from our audience to our panel. If there is one, I will take that now. Otherwise, I'm going to take closing remarks from them. Any burning question from our audience? There is one there. Okay, I'll just take those two because we are pressed for time. Could we get microphones to the second row, please? Thank you very much. Thank you.
مساء الخير. هو سؤال مركب. احنا عندنا في اي منظمه نعتبرها هي القاره الافريقيه ليها خطه استراتيجيه او ليها استراتيجيه ورؤيه. المشكله هنا بتبقى هل البلدان الاخرى اللي هي بتعتبر صب ماشيه على نفس الخط او الاستراتيجيه، يبقى دي استراتيجيه فرعيه. يبقى عندنا في استراتيجيه اساسيه بتاعت القاره، في استراتيجيات فرعيه بتاعت الدول. لازم الاستراتيجيات الفرعيه تخدم الاستراتيجيه الاساسيه. ده اول سؤال. هل هنقدر نتوافق مع التجمعات الاقليميه والدول في هذا الشأن ولا لا؟ وايه الخطوات اللي احنا ممكن نعملها عشان نوحد تبقى استراتيجيه واحده من القمه القاريه لغايه الدول تحت والتجمعات الاقليميه. السؤال الثاني، احنا عندنا 50 مشروع جديد هيبقوا في البيدا للمرحله الثانيه. في مشروعات متبقيه من برامج ومشروعات من المرحله الاولى، هل هنختار منها وهندخلهم جوه ال50؟ وهل هيطبق عليهم نفس المعايير اللي هنطبقها في البيدا باب 2 ولا لا؟ الجزء الثالث حاضر.
No, can't have a third part. I let you get away with the second part. All right, I'll take one more from, thank you.
Thank you. Very simple comment. I just want to emphasize on what Her Honorable the Commissioner mentioned in the morning on the importance of tourism. So I am from the tourism sector. I am repeating and re-emphasize on this importance of tourism. If we want to achieve an integration among our member states, we have to be interested very well with tourism, because we can achieve the target of filling the gaps among our continent via tourism. It is the soft power. I think we have to encourage the intra-tourism in between our continents, and Egypt started, by the way, in this regard. We started to open a new market. We are very interested on African resources. So we are encouraging the tour operators to run some circuits in the deep range of Africa. So the integration between Egypt and other African member states now are forming a new tourism market, new tourism product, which is called a niche product. We have many resources in the African continent where others haven't, by the way. Wildlife are there in the deep range of Africa. And here in Egypt, we have the Nile River and so on and so on. So integration between our countries, encouraging the intra-tourism is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask each of my panel remarks, and then of course I'm going to